check. If all media that are getting on could just please mute their phones. We'll give it 2 more minutes and then we'll get started.
All right.
All right, Commissioner, why don't we get started? Again, please mute your phones if you're not speaking. I'll go down the list of media outlets and reporters that have RSVP'd. And we are working on doing this in a video format for next week's update. But in the meantime, we wanted to go with what would definitely work and get you all the information for today, and we'll do this on a weekly basis. Kurt, over to you.
Okay, welcome. Thanks for participating. I'm Kurt Westby, Commissioner of Labor, and I have Dante Bartolomeo with me, Deputy Commissioner of Labor. She'll talk in a second, but I thought I would lay out just a basic framework of where we stand before we open it up for questions. I'll try to be brief. We do understand that it's a financial crisis when anyone is laid off. So we at DOL are doing everything in our power to manage the tsunami of claims that have been submitted to DOL. We know patience is running out for some as we get to their claims. But let me tell you about our progress first. Once processed, all the claims that we've been managing and will continue to manage will be retroactive payments and have been retroactive payments. As of yesterday, since March 13th, there have been 402,000 applications submitted to DOL. That's well over 2 years of normal claim activity in just a little over a month. That's been a big challenge for our 40-year-old COBOL-based computer system. But thanks to the tremendous and dedicated staff here at DOL, we've processed more than 327,000 of those applications. That represents 81% since March 13th. We're processing over 30,000 claims per week manually, and we've provided over $230 million in benefits checks since COVID began. Think about that. Just 2 months ago, we were processing about 3,000 claims a week. That was the norm. To do what we've done, we've more than quadrupled staff. We've been working overtime, weekends. All staff have been relentless in getting claims done and benefits out the door, even while enduring the same corona threats as everyone else. But that wasn't enough. At one point, not long ago, about a week and a half ago, we were at 50% processed claims applications to incoming applications. Not long ago, there were 350,000 applications, and we had processed probably 175,000. That's only 50%. So we asked our developers and programmers to devise a technical fix that put the claims into an automated process, which has never been the case before in our aging system. This sped up our processing considerably, such that we've reduced the prior 6-week wait time to at least half of that so far, and we're on the way to getting it down to about 1 week. We've processed over 100,000 applications through the automated mechanism. So claimants through that process received an email saying their claims have been processed and next steps to take. That's the backlog that we've been working on. Second, the $600 FPUC so-called plus-up benefit legislated from the CARES Act will be added to the existing unemployment insurance benefits structure effective effective March 29th, and will proceed to July 25th. This includes part-time and self-employed. We intend to have this program up and running by about the 27th of April, and that's $600 added to every claim. Third, the PUA, or Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, will also provide benefits, but to the self-employed. We're building this system now and expect to have it up and running by April 30th. So on April 30th, we will begin to accept claim applications for the PUA. So that's just a general summary of where we're at with the backlog, as well as the new programs coming into being. Dante?
Thank you, Commissioner. I think you did a phenomenal job kind of giving an overview of where we've been and where we are. One thing to point out is that we are expecting by this weekend that what was once a 6-week wait, based on just an incredible influx at once, will get to a 1-week wait. And when we say wait, we mean for the application to get in the process of being acted upon. So that's quite a tremendous feat, I believe, and we're very, very proud of our staff. Many of us are going on, today is day 41 straight. Life before March 13th versus life after March 13th is very different. And we do have employees of ours who are and have been personally affected by COVID-19. We have employees who have been out ill themselves and have been quarantined, or family members have. So we're very proud of the way that everyone has rallied and worked together. We do know that there's a constant kind of question about, our previous environment with a call center, and the fact that we currently do not have a traditional call center. Just because I expect that to be coming, I'll give you a little bit of an understanding of that. In that call center was about 130 employees in 2015 when we encountered in the state of Connecticut mass layoffs. Between 2015 and into 16, we ended up having going from 130 staff members down to 40 employees from the layoffs, and then based on attrition and retirements, we were down to under 5 people. So the call center environment became one that wasn't sustainable. And what we did do, though, was we went to, from a call center, I should say, that was Monday through Friday, 7 to 4:30, we went to an online system that is 24/7, 365, and increased access to people being able to file their applications, as well as statewide in 18 locations having personal in-person access for customers in our American Job Centers. That all was actually deemed quite successful. Customers had much more access to filing claims, as well as to personally having their claims and issues dealt with in the American Job Centers. The challenge we face here is that we had to close to the public. So based on that, we have been adding staff to try to help customers through a general phone line. We have over 25 people that have been added to answer general questions and to help people on their mobile device or on their computer go in and make their application. These callers or the people on the phones are not able to process it for them, but they are able to help them and assist them. We also have, we are answering about 3,000 emails a day by a variety of people that have been assigned to do the online assistance center and the web help emails. So while we do not currently have a call center, and that's been a common question until March 13th, we actually had better customer service and in-person service. And it's unfortunate that through the pandemic that has had to change as we had to close to the public. But we are as incredibly responsive in other ways. Rob, you want to take questions?
Sure. If that's it, we'll go down the list. Again, please mute your phone until I call on you. We'll start with Doug from Connecticut News Junkie.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good morning.
Hi. So we've got a few different questions from readers here. I'm just going to try and run through them very quickly, okay? First, there's been a sort of a persistent question about people who were advised to put in a return to work date, and those have sort of come and gone, and now they're struggling to, they can't change that date in the system. They're also unable to file a missed week claim. Things like the system doesn't seem to be responding to that need. Can you help with that?
Yeah, I can start on that. We've heard that problem times, and we're currently looking for patterns like that one to fix it. If there is a fix, there could be a lot of reasons for that, wherein a claimant filed multiple claims, potentially with different info, where they maybe did not get the email with the instructions. Maybe the email went to spam, but there is a mechanism if it's been a week or two since having received the benefit. It's called the quick click, where you log into file CTDOL.com to the online assistance center under the blue tab, and in the first bullet is where you can click on a section to deal with a missed week. If that could work, but we are looking right now at situations like that because we have heard that, and if there is a system fix for it, be expecting an email this weekend potentially for instructions on how to fix your claim.
Okay, and that we'll advise them to all.
Mind if I add to that, sir?
Please.
Okay. So the return to work date, the reason they were advised to put a return to work date was because it put them into a category that we refer to as a temporary shutdown, meaning that they're only temporarily out of work. That forces a claim into a fully automated system, one that is much quicker than the standard claim system. So we advise people to do that, and we also follow up with an email that would be explaining to them how they could continue to proceed. We are finding that what we're doing right now is, as the commissioner mentioned, we're looking at batches of those, and if they have not addressed that or changed that, we are manually doing that and for them. We're going through that in a process we have to go in and manually do that, and we're doing about 500 to 1,000 of those per day. We're trying to grab batches of them, but that is why that they were asked to do that. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people are getting an email back, and it's going into spam or it's going into their junk folder. So we are asking that they continually check that and that they amend as they're suggested to. If, unfortunately, they have missed that and they did not then go in and file their own claim that next week, as it was stated, then unfortunately it won't allow them future weeks to change that. So those are the people that the commissioner mentioned that we are looking for patterns, and we are grabbing them by batches and changing them. Often, and actually we had a couple of those this morning, we're finding that by the time we do call them, if they've gotten an email through the online assistance center and we get to call them, it's already been amended and fixed.
Okay, so if they have failed to get that email, should they file again? Is it possible for them to just restart the process?
No, what they should be doing actually is they should be going to the online assistance center, as the commissioner mentioned. They can put in there the problem that they're having, and likely we will be catching them before it even gets to that point and converting them over, and they'll start getting payments again. That's what we've been finding for some of those that are noticing by now. We're catching them as well.
Okay. Two more quick ones, okay? People were asking about the $600 a week fund that payments that were supposed to start previous Friday. Will the errors in the system impact that?
I certainly hope not. I don't believe they will. This will be automatic, and we expect to be getting payments out next week. They will be payments going forward. The $600 will be going forward, and then shortly after that, we will be adding any retro, if applicable, to any of those claimants.
Okay, the last one I have from a reader is, people have been receiving benefits for a while, and then they stop, and the account is put on hold, and they're given a message that is code 108. A number of people have been talking about the code 108. They don't know how to handle this. Should they just be heading back to that same online assistant and filling in these details, and you guys will catch up and reach out by email?
Commissioner, do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So the code 108 is a code that tells them their claim is being held. And so very often what we're finding as we become aware of these and address them is that in one particular situation that I just did this morning, they had their claim application in, they got 1 week, then they missed filing the next week. And then the following week they tried to do it and go back. What happened was it put a held on their account because the week that they missed meant that they reported zero wages. That triggers a stop in our system. It typically, we would then, when we are, in a normal load where we only have a 3-day wait, we'd be calling them to say, why are there zero wages? Are you back to work? What is the situation? We would find out that it was just their mistake and we would reset them. The system is actually doing what it's supposed to when it sees a variance, whether that be zero wages 1 week because they forgot, whether they have checked something else off that may have been wrong. For instance, they're working part-time and they list zero wages for that part-time job because maybe they didn't do it this week. It triggers a stop. The system doesn't know why there's zero wages. Maybe they put something down that they've clicked off not available. This is happening a lot. They're probably trying to be very honest with the system because maybe they're sick that week or they have a family member sick that week and they're saying, I'm not available to work this week. What that does is it sends up a red flag because we don't know what that means and we need to then check with them to verify. You have to be able and available to work. If you're clicking, I'm not able to work this week or I'm not available to work this week because you're affected by COVID and you think you're doing the right thing, it puts the halt on the system. So that error code is explainable, but it does halt things. We are, when we're seeing those, it's within our system, it's called a V-stop. When we're seeing those, we're taking batches of these and we're manually, one by one, we have a group in one of our offices that are going into those stops, looking at them. And at this point in time, we're not doing as much calling, we're resetting them, but it is a one-by-one manual process to reset. That again is one of those scenarios where if they see this happening, the quick clicks for the file CTUI does have a place that they can send us an email, but we are getting to them also in bunches as we notice the pattern and grab them.
Okay, so the advice is don't change a thing unless your employment status changes.
Actually, the advice is go to our tutorial. File CTUI, there's a blue button there. It says right above the blue button, you can click on the tutorial. The tutorial actually gives advice on how to interpret and answer the questions. It's a really helpful guide, if you will, and it does prevent many of these situations that we're talking about.
Okay. Thanks very much for these answers. If anybody else has questions about the shared work program people were asking about that because they've had no response, but that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Doug. And just for the, I know some folks have a noon deadline, so let's try to keep it, if we can, to about 2 questions. Up next is Sue Haig from the AP.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi. I had a question about gig workers. In Connecticut, is the income that you earn from being a gig worker, like someone that performs music or drives a car, or if you're a contractor, is that factored into your unemployment benefits? And also, is it true that they can't apply for the extra federal money?
Gig workers will be included in the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance portion that we are building out now. Not only gig workers, but contractors, self-employed workers. There's still a little bit of a wait for gig workers, but we are building that out, and they will have access to those PUA monies, just like a normal self-employed person, as well as the $600 plus up on top of that.
And you said you're.
So I think the first part of your.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dante.
No, I apologize. The first part of your question had been: are their earnings figured into their unemployment? And so, just to be very clear on that, they typically are not eligible for the state benefits, but as the commissioner said, they would be eligible for the federal. So their income is not figured in, quote unquote, to their benefit because they're typically not eligible for state, but they will be picked up with the federal stimulus.
And also, you said you're still building out the system. So whatever they get would be retroactive to whenever they first applied?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Sue. Up next is Paul Hughes from the Waterbury Republican American.
Good morning. I had a question about the extended benefits. You say that the system will be operational by mid-May. So what happens to people who run out of their 26 weeks between now and when that system becomes operational?
Well, between now and when that system is operational, if anyone runs out of benefits, there will be a lapse. But once that system is up, the benefits will be retroactive, assuming they meet the requirements, to the date that the benefits had expired.
Okay. How much is, how much was in the unemployment fund? What was the balance? What is the current balance? That seems to be a question that the governor gets asked frequently, but we never hear a number from him.
Well, that number is changing rapidly. I mean, we've had just last week, we've added 100,000 new applications. So we're doling out the monies fast. We just a month and a half ago, we probably had about 650 million in the trust fund or so. We're down to 400 million today, and declining. We will be getting some revenues in from employer contributions, but we're definitely reducing quickly as the unprecedented number of claims keeps increasing.
Okay, and just one last question: what percentage? Can you give us a breakdown of how many of these 402,000 applications have been processed by an automated system, and how many have to be done manually? I believe earlier you said 100,000 were done by this new automated system, so 300,000 done manually. I'm just trying to get a handle on that.
Yeah. It's actually over 100,000 done by the automated system. The last time I checked, it was, I think, 104,000, probably a little more now. So the balance, you subtract 104 from 327,000 of the last number that I've gotten in terms of the manually processed claims, and that'll give you that number. So roughly 223,000 have been manually processed, looks like.
And if I could just piggyback on that, I just need to clarify that they are applications, the processing of applications as opposed to claims, to differentiate, because they're not all claims. There are duplicates, there are triplicates, there are a variety of things. So I just want to make sure that we're talking in terms of applications.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because the remaining 76,000 applications that we have not processed yet include duplications, and so that number is actually a bit inflated.
Okay, and just real quick back to Sue's question about the gig workers. So are they just going to get the $600 from the federal and nothing from the state? I mean, because I guess what the maximum is $639 now.
Yeah, they'll get the base, essentially the normal benefit structure. It's a little bit different with I think the max of $649 if their income was that high, plus the plus up.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. Moving on to Eric in the Journal Inquirer.
Yes, I'm just so I'm clear on the $600. Is that going to be applied to every check that you guys cut?
Well, it'll be applied to the checks during the period for which the FPUC is applicable, which is March 29th to July 25th, I believe.
And you said that earlier. You said that it's not going to be retroactive at first. Can you explain the reasoning for that, and whether or not, if say people have 2 weeks, are they should they expect an additional $1,200 at some point to make up for that $600 per week, just as an example?
They'll be getting their checks going forward, and we hope within a fairly short period of time if there's applicable retroactivity, to be applying that as soon as we can. I'm not sure how long that'll be, but I don't think it's going to be a long time. And the reason for that is the system that we've been tweaking relentlessly, this 40-year-old COBOL-based system, is a difficult system to program, and we have to be careful in terms of that programming, not to make any mistakes.
Okay, and one last thing to follow up on Paul's question. Is there any danger of the unemployment fund running out of money at some point? And if so, when would that be? And what happens then? No, I
don't think there's any danger of running out. There's a normal process that we would use and will be using and have used in the past, such as the Great Recession. I believe we borrowed well over $1 billion from the federal government. That's a routine process of borrowing. So we follow that procedure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Eric. Sue Rath from WFSB.
Good morning. I have a couple of questions. One, I know that the latest unemployment numbers, it's not out, the rate, but the federal government is saying some 20 million Americans are out of work. Is there any indication how many people in Connecticut are out of work?
Well, in terms of an official statistic, coming from our research department, the last report that we issued on April 16th was based on surveys taken before March 13th, and that was 3.7%. Obviously, it's not that. The next jobs report will be issued on the 21st of May. That'll reflect better the reality. I'm a little reluctant to take a guess because, you can look at the number of people that are receiving unemployment benefits, but that doesn't reflect all the people that aren't and who are out of work as well. So I can't give you an accurate figure today.
But we still don't know. The other question I had was those who are self-employed. I know that they have not been previously included in benefits. They are now. What's happening with them? I understand they still haven't gotten their payments, but they will be soon.
Right. That's the PUA program that I was talking about. We hope and expect to have that up and running by the end of next week, by the 30th, and be taking applications after that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Sue. Up next is Sabina from WTNH.
Good morning, commissioners. Let's start with, do you have what's your approval rate for the applications that you have processed? How many of those are getting approved for benefits?
I'm not sure how many are actually, there's a process after the process is a couple-pronged process leading to a benefit actually being paid. So it depends on which step of the process you're talking about, but normally when we run the automation, for example, at least initially, at least 2/3 that are processed basically go to automatic payment. Some are ferreted out over a couple days. Some have to be cross-checked on various criteria. So there would be more after that. So it's kind of hard to give you an answer, but certainly the bulk.
So the bulk of applications that you're receiving are being approved and paid out?
Well, the bulk of the applications that are processed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there was a question about, we saw that there was a Connecticut unemployment extension from 26 to 39 weeks. Can you confirm that and go into that a little bit?
Well, that's the PEUC that another gentleman was asking about a couple of minutes ago. We're building up that system. Benefits would be added on to existing 26-week claims after that expired. Those would be claims emanating from after July 1st, 2019, I believe. So we hope to have that system up and running in mid-May.
That's actually the 13-week edition then?
That's correct.
So that's not new. That was already planned, obviously, right?
Well, that's in the CARES Act, if that's what you mean.
Right, exactly. We're getting questions from people who their unemployment has run out, but they can't file for that extension. So they're falling into this gap period until you get that system up and running. What can you tell us about how soon they can be able to file for that extension?
They should wait until we give them some information on the website. We're continually updating our website in terms of these various programs. So wait for instructions on that because there's no point in applying for it right now.
And as the commissioner has said to one of the previous reporters who asked that question as well, it's just not built yet. So we're building these federal programs in a parallel world to doing all of the bulk for the state benefits. That's the one that we're expecting at least until the middle of May. The website will say it, but it will be, once it's up and going, it will be retro back to the March 29th for those that are eligible.
Okay, and will that help people who were unemployed, their unemployment ran out, they were on the cusp of full-time employment when COVID hit? Will those people be eligible for the extension?
If they're eligible for the PUA or the FPUC, either of those, then they would likely be eligible for the extension. It's for eligible, those that are already eligible. So if they had been getting benefits and it ran out, and due to COVID, they're not able and available to find work, then that's when it would apply to them for an extension.
Okay.
Now these just understand, these are generalities. There are often and always situations that are individual that might preclude someone from an additional benefit. So just keep that in mind when we're answering these questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Harriet Jones from Public Radio.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'm curious on the federal backstop for the fund. I know that there's a process in place whereby you can borrow the cash, but I think that the congressional delegation is also looking at a fix whereby you might be able to get that money as a grant. I'm curious if there's been any forward motion on that.
Yes, I submitted a letter to the federal government some 3 weeks ago requesting that any loan that would be made and will be made, that's inevitable, be converted to a grant. And we're hoping that our partners, other DOLs and trade associations like NASWA, which also represents state employment systems and UI systems, follow that lead, and the congressional delegation has that information and is very interested in that. So we've begun that process already, and we're hoping and expecting the National Governors Association to be weighing in on that too, because this is clearly going to be a problem for every state, not just Connecticut.
If by some chance you don't get that, if you do, you get the money as a loan and not as a grant, what's your sense of the scale of this? How long we might be looking at additional tax on employers to get the funds back in balance?
Well, you can't predict that, but know that for the first year, at least this year, there will be no increased tax on the experience rating. That's written into the rules, so that won't happen. And next year, I believe any increase would just be on the interest of that loan, and it wouldn't be until I believe January of 2023 that any tax rate would necessarily go up unless those loans were converted to grants.
All right, thank you, Elsa.
All right, thank you, Harriet. Moving on to Keith Faniff, Connecticut Mirror.
Thank you. Dante, tell me if I have this sequence right, please. Back in 2015, before the layoff, there were about 130 employees who would be processing applications or taking applications over the phone. From first layoff and then due to attrition, it went down to about 40 employees, eventually about 5 employees, but then you complemented it with the American Job Center. You said you have 25 more in the call center now. If that sequence is right, how many people in total do you have taking calls right now during the pandemic? Hello?
Oh, can you hear me? I'm sorry about that. A little bit different there. So in 2015, we went from 130 down to 40 due to the layoffs. 2016, with attrition and retirements, we ultimately got down to the point where, Commissioner, I believe it was closed in 2018. There was under 5 people. The 25 I mentioned now, or the more than 25, that's not a call center. What that is we have 2 telephone lines that we have spidered off into being able to answer by over 25 people. It's general information questions. They're not able to process a claim like someone in a call center had done. What they're able to do is to talk people through some common mistakes, to help them as they're filing their own application, whether it be on a mobile phone or on the computer. So it's general information assistance that we have set up since March 13th.
Gotcha.
Let me, can I add something on that too?
Sure.
With the conversion to the internet, the IIC, or the initial internet claims system, we put in an automated internet-based system just 3 years ago, which very much increased the speed and ability of us to handle these claims. Whereas before, it was entirely individual with that call center. So the conversion to the IIC system sped up the process a lot, and only required staff, and those are the 80 or so processors that I was talking about earlier, to finish up the claim, not to take in the claim. So actually that's a much more efficient process, which enabled us to get away from the old system and to have a much more streamlined process. If we had been if we had been back with the system that we had 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, the claims load would be much worse than it is now, because we wouldn't have had the initial internet claims front-end system.
Okay, and a very quick follow on that. Am I correct then, if these are probably very few people, but if you get somebody who calls your general information line and says, listen, I don't have a computer, I don't have a tablet, I don't have a smartphone, and I don't have access to a trusted friend who's got any of these things, is there any way for them to file a claim when they don't have access to this type of IT?
Yes, we are taking care of them. The people that are staffing the phone are aware they have a system. They take their information down, and we have someone designated within 5 days to give that person a call back and to manually do it for them if, in fact, they absolutely cannot do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. Moving on to Rachel Rooney from WFSB. All right, thank you. Moving on to Kristen Johnson, NBC Connecticut.
Hi, a couple questions for you. Going back to the actual first question you were asked about people that were put on hold, we've spoken to a woman who says she's done everything right. She goes to the DOL website every single day. She was getting paid in February. Her claim was active till August, and then all of a sudden on March 28th, she was put on hold. I'm wondering if you have the numbers of how many people like her were put on hold during the middle of this COVID crisis, and if any of those cases that were put on hold have been made active since then.
I do not have numbers for you, and yes, they are. That is the batch of probably 500 to 1,000 a day that we are flagging. We have a stop list that we're going by, and we are making them active again. What I have found in every single one of the situations that has come our way that we've corrected is a variety of common mistakes, if you will, not necessarily done with any kind of a malice or anything, but people are either forgetting to file 1 week and then it's a 0 wages and it flags the system to shut it down and hold it and stop it because it may be that they've gone back to work and we have to check into that. As I said before, if someone is checking off on 1 week, not available to work, they may be doing that because in situations we've uncovered, they are sick that week or a family member is sick that week. And so they're genuinely not available, but what it does is you have to be able and available to receive unemployment. So it's a flag to shut down the system and to put a hold on it. So there are many scenarios that are creating that, and we are catching them and fixing them. They also can and should go into the file CTUI, go to Quick Clicks, put in there that they've missed the week. Likely we're calling them, catching them, and changing it back over before we even get to that email. But that is the way that they can report it.
So this particular person, 63 years old, career in IT, so obviously appreciates what you guys are going through and checks her spam every day. She sent an email a month ago and says she still hasn't received any response. Can you tell me how many emails you've received and how many you've been able to respond to?
I don't know how many we've received. I know that we are answering them at a rate of over 3,000 per day. And certainly if you wanted to get us information on this particular person, we would look into that, but I cannot answer anything about a particular person. There are too many criteria that I just don't know.
Right. That just seems to be a common complaint from everyone we've heard from, that their emails are not being responded to going on a month now. That's why I was wondering how many you received and how many you've been able to respond to. Another common complaint is the phone calls. A lot of people say that the people answering the phones, if they get through to someone, they can't really get specific with their case. They can just answer very generic questions pertaining to what's already in the PDF document. Can you tell me more about what you're telling the people answering the phones to respond to, and if they have to keep it very generic?
It is a general phone line, general assistance phone line. They are not UI processors. We have every single person that has this skill set, which is a highly technical skill set, to process claims doing that. That's how we've gone, the commissioner stated, from about 20 people processing claims to over 80 people processing claims. Those that are answering the phone have a desk aide, a help guide. There are certain things that they are able to and successfully are helping clients through or customers through, a variety of things, like if there's a lockout, if they didn't, if they skipped a week, that kind of thing. So they are assisting and helping them through as a non-UI professional, but helping them through the desk aid. So they are doing a service, and many people are finding that helpful because they're able to talk to somebody as they're on their claim. They cannot fix or correct a claim, but they can talk them through how to get that done.
So if they're not getting their emails responded to and they're not getting their questions answered over the phone, what can they do?
Well, they, as I said, we're answering over 3,000 emails a day. We're getting through that. We're going to be going from what was a 6-week backlog just a week or so ago to, by this weekend, we expect it to be down to 1 week. We are grabbing batches of claims that have a common scenario, like they're on a hold or a shutdown, and we are putting those through in batches. And we have about 500 to 1,000 people a day working on the individual manual changes to those. So we are doing it, and we're getting to it as quickly as we can, and we've made great progress in the wait. As I said before, if you have a particular client, you should make sure that you're getting that information to us.
And lastly,
right.
do the self-employed have to refile on April 30th if they've already filed?
If they have already filed, they will not have to refile. We have that in the system, and typically that shows as 0 wages because they are self-employed and they have not been contributing to unemployment benefits, and they haven't been reporting their wages to us. If they have waited, then they should be filing right after the 30th and for their first time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Moving on to Steve Singer from the Hartford Courant.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks. Commissioner, you had talked a little bit early in the call about some of the technical fixes. Can you go in just a few details about how those technical fixes helped your people speed up the process? What exactly was done?
Well, I can try. I'm not a technical person myself, but basically, we have had one part of our system that was automated. Keep in mind the backdrop. You know, for the last 3 years, we've been hurriedly automating our system through this group called Reemploy, and that modernization is scheduled to take place in May of 2021 because of the antiquated system that we have. So we have been dedicating lots of resources, including federal monies, to ramp up with a completely modernized system as of 1 year from now. Obviously, this happened, put a major crimp in that development. It's not as if we weren't aware that we had a problem, in the making. However, in the meanwhile, we were able to automate a couple parts of the system. One of those parts is called the temporary shutdown. If an employer wants to lay off folks for a predetermined amount of time and have them come back to work, that's called a temporary shutdown. Some call it a furlough. Anywhere from 1 week to 6 weeks. That is largely automated. So what we did in the last couple of weeks is find a way to convert a regular claim that would go through all the processors to manually do it, to convert those claims into automatic claims where a processor does not have to touch that. And part of some of the subsequent issues around that, have to do with the conversion of those automatic benefits of 1 to 6 weeks, where we applied a generic end date and then took it off and asked the claimants to convert their claim to a recurring claim, which every claimant has to do anyway. Every claimant has to log on to their account every week and basically say they're still there, they're still looking for work. But so in short, it was the conversion, the forcing of over 100,000 people through that process in order to get them into the benefit capacity as soon as possible.
Thank you. And one other thing, Governor Lamont had mentioned in a couple of his Q&As with reporters that a lot of people were shifted into slots at DOL to speed up the applications, bringing in people who may have retired or bringing in people from other agencies. Have you spoken about the number that was before, how many you had pre-pandemic processing claims to how many as of now or early April?
Yeah, we had about 20 managing on average 3,000 claims a week. Now we have a strong 80 who we've, as you said, brought back from retirement. We've pulled from other areas. Anyone with experience in processing who we can get under any circumstances that we've been able to has been put into that group. So we've quadrupled at least the number of folks doing that, and added significant hours to their work week in order to accomplish what they've accomplished.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Up next is Taylor from Fox 61.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. So going back to the communication issue, even if you've quadrupled staff, is the Department of Labor looking into hiring more so that they can answer people's phone calls and people's emails in a more timely fashion? And if not, what should people do? Should they just hang tight and wait for a response? Obviously, this is an anti situation for everyone.
Yes, we are looking to hire more people. We are going to be hiring 3 waves of 20. We're going to be hiring 60 folks over the next few weeks. Temporaries to manage call center claims, particularly for these new programs that are going to be coming along. And before that, we're going to be hiring, changing the roles of a bunch of staff who are already here to be doing those tasks as well. So there should be at least 60, if not 70 more online in a little bit.
Okay. I also would note that I want to note that as we are continuing to bring down and the number that are pending to be processed, that wait is dropping. So as it's gone from 6 weeks down to 3 weeks down to, we expect it to be at 1 week. That also is helping with the number that are being able to be emailed back or called back. So all of that, the time is reducing. We are reducing that daily. And we have another group of people that are currently in training at this moment that'll be deployed even before the 60 that the commissioner mentioned.
And how many
as the deputy pointed out, the numbers, and I'll just give you an example of yesterday, which was a really good day. There were 4,400 applicants submitted, and we actually processed over 13,000. So the curve is going in the right direction. So we're excited about that, to be freeing up some resources.
And then for the self-employed who wait to file, will they get retroactive payments as well, or they have already had to file?
The self-employed, for those who have not filed, should, yes, get retroactive payments. And
then some people are emailing us. They're saying they filed, they got a week's check, and then they got an email that they should not file weekly, but then they stopped getting money. So should people be filing weekly or not filing weekly?
Well, that gets back to the answer that Deputy Commissioner gave a couple times in terms of reasons for that and us looking for patterns to try to deal with that situation. And if there is a pattern, we'll be sending them an email.
Okay, and then just last.
And they should be going to the file. They should go to File CTUI and go to the Quick Clicks and submit their online assistance center. We likely will pick them up and fix that before it gets to us, but they should still do that email.
Okay, and then last question: do you have a plan in place for after this is over to continually update the unemployment system? So say this happens again in the next 40 years, we're not going to be dealing with a 40-year-old system?
Well, that's what I was just talking about with Reemploy Connecticut. We've been diligently scurrying to get this new system in place, which is a completely modernized system that we will be sharing with 4 other states.
Did we lose the commissioner? I think we lost the commissioner. So as he is saying, that was scheduled to be ready. It's been something that's been in the works for the past 3 to 4 years. It was scheduled to be ready by May of 2021. We have had to have people move back over to working on creating the system for the federal stimulus. But we will be continuing the modernization program that has been started for the last 2 years and was scheduled for May 2021.
And then will it continually be updated after that date, though?
That system is a completely new system. We will no longer be using or needing to use the mainframe that we're currently using. It will be when you say continue to be updated, it will be brand new and moving forward would absolutely be maintained.
All right, thank you, Rachel, Taylor. Moving on to Alex from Hearst.
Thank you. Commissioner, are you on? Can you hear me?
I think we lost him, but this is
Okay.
Deputy Commissioner Dante Bartolomeo.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll bounce it off you. And the tough question's already been asked. I'm surprised he would bounce off of mine. No, just joking. But first question, is there any subsequent wave of paperwork related to beneficiaries or employers or anything else that could result in a future lag in processing that would be part of the normal life cycle of a jobless claim? So, we've seen the upfront claims. Is there any, later point where you would see paperwork or anything else inflate with regard to a claim that could cause a future lag?
I'm sorry, I really don't understand your question.
Sure. So a claim gets filed initially, which you folks have been struggling to keep up with the initial claims. Once the claims are in the system, as a person goes through the life cycle of their claim, is there any future point where processing requirements increase that would create a challenge for DOL?
No, not necessarily. I mean, they have things that they need to continue to do. So, for instance, they need to be filing weekly and updating and all of that. When they skip that or don't do that, then that's when we get into the situation of a hold where it needs to be reset and we need to understand why and what happened. And everything we've been talking about as far as the backlog and the wait time has been related to state benefits, state UI benefits. So remembering that we are building in phases the federal stimulus, and that those will continue. That federal stimulus continues, into July, and maybe even beyond. That's why we're hiring another 60 people, as the commissioner mentioned, because we will continue to need to be servicing that. And then there certainly is stuff on the back end that we need to be doing, but we are gearing up for that right now. So I don't anticipate the concern that you mentioned to be a problem.
Great. And my other question was related to what you were just saying. How long does it take to train a person on the current system so that they can process an application to spec, whatever your requirements would be? Is it a matter of days to train someone, weeks, months? How would you describe that? And then related, how many staff did get put out of commission as a result of coronavirus, and were any hospitalized?
This is Kurt Westby.
Yeah.
Did you notice? For some reason, I was cut off, so I had to log on. I'm not sure what I missed, but I'm back. The number of staff that have been out has been relatively small. It's been a handful, and most of them are back. I think we might have one out now. Maybe Dante, you can update on me on that if I'm wrong. As for the training, that's at least a 3 to 4 month process to adequately train a processor. This is a highly technical job. It requires a lot of knowledge, particularly now with all these new interrelated programs. So it's nothing that you can train up someone in a week.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Moving on to Kate King from the Wall Street Journal.
Hi, thanks for taking all these questions. I'm wondering about the modernization process you were talking about. What are the other states that you're working with, first of all? And second of all, how is this upgrade going to be affected given the current crisis?
The other states, as I mentioned, began with Mississippi, started with federal dollars to be modernized several years back. They added Maine, which has been modernized, Rhode Island, which is not yet modernized, and Connecticut, which is in process, 2/3 of the way through modernization. Oklahoma will follow Connecticut, and that's been very much of a project for Connecticut for the last several years. We've put a lot of resources into it because of the system we have, and to avoid situations like what just occurred. That modernized system will remain modernized for perpetuity because it'll have built-in upgrades as any upgrades are needed. So we're very excited about that. In terms of a potential delay of our May deadline, that's very possible because we've shifted almost all of our available resources into managing this crisis. We have a very bare bones staff continuing with the modernization, and a contractor called TCS, which is still modernizing our system. So we're hoping that we can make the May deadline, but that's not a guarantee.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. And up next is Anna Radalat.
Hey, thanks for doing this. A few questions. First, you haven't spoken about the people who have, have exhausted their unemployment claims before this pandemic. The CARES Act requires the states to give them a new, 39 weeks of unemployment. What's the status of that? Have you given any of these people benefits? I have several other questions.
That was a program we talked about earlier, the PEUC program, which would, assuming they got their 26 weeks already in a claim emanating after July of 2019, and added 13 weeks, and we're building that system and expect to have that up and running mid-May. Mid-May?
But these people may have been unemployed for weeks and weeks by then. Okay.
That's possible. We're building the FPUC program, the PUA system, as well as that program, and we're trying our best to maintain and deal with the backlog as well. So that's it could come before that, but we're going as fast as we can, keeping in mind that this is an antiquated system. It's impossible to be doing multivariate testing on this system as you would in a much more modern system.
But so you're building up the PEUC system, and you may have it by mid-May. But you also, I think, said that deadline might slip. Is that correct?
Well, it's not a deadline.
You're confused, and I believe I think you're saying when you're saying May of 2021, when the commissioner was talking about the new modern.
Okay, I got it.
That was May of 2021. We've had to pull people from that to build brand new the federal stimulus programs, one of which is the PEUC.
Okay, and I'm a little confused as to why the extended benefits will also take time, because this happened in 2008, that the federal government extended benefits. Why isn't that in your system already?
Well, in 2008, there was a long ramp up in terms of the ability to react. This year, it's just been a tsunami of claims that have completely overwhelmed the system, and just maintaining the system has been a major piece of work that we've had here at DOL.
I guess the way I would explain it as well for you is that there's multiple lanes on this highway, if you will. So in one lane, we're processing all of the state benefits that you're hearing about, the 400,000 that have come to us in 5 weeks. So in the one lane, we're processing those. And then in other lanes on this highway, we're building these additional systems. They're not merged together. They're not being built together. They have to be built in parallel systems and individually assess the claims. So that's new. It's not something that we can just flip a switch from 2008.
Okay, got it. So the other thing is FPUC money. You said that they will start going out checks next week, but they won't contain any back unemployment to these people, any back federal FPUC money. Why is that?
Technical constraints in terms of managing the system, but we expect to get those, any retro monies if they're owed relatively quickly.
I think if we go back to if we go back to the analogy of the lanes, you've got a regular state benefit. Now you're taking, let's say it was $300 a month, and you're putting $600, or excuse me, $300 a week. Now you're putting another $600. So what we're doing is we're telling that state benefit system that starting next week, it now needs to be a deposit for $900. But we have to separately program it that now that person also gets owed the past weeks back to March 29th. So that comes in a separate deposit, that retro. One lane is going to keep on going at that extra $900, the 3 plus the 6. Every week it's going to be now $900, and then we've got to pay the retro separately. Does that make more sense?
Yes. Now, when you say, will that be one check to give all the retro? And when you say fairly quickly, what are we talking, a week? We're talking 2 weeks? What are we talking here?
At this point in time, it is, and we should stop to actually saying checks. I apologize. We should be talking about it in the form of deposits. We no longer do checks. So the deposit, whether it be a direct deposit or toward the debit card, it will be at one point in time. So let's say they missed 3 weeks. They will either, and this is not clear right now, it will either be that they have a deposit of $1,800 or they see 3 deposits of $600 on their statement, one or the other. It'll come at one time. And at this point in time, we expect that would be within a few weeks that they would be able to get that retro.
Okay, and last question. How have you used I think the last count, you might have gotten more since then, but the last time I checked, you all got $12 million, and that was not in the CARES Act, but the previous stimulus bill, to ramp up your systems. And other states like Maryland has had a similar system, a COBOL system like yours, but they were able to start giving out checks last week, the FPUC, and also with those checks went out with, I believe, the back money, not checks, deposits, included the back money. So how, I guess the question is, how have you used your $12 million, and why have other states with similar systems been able to move forward on this and not Connecticut?
Well, some states have moved forward quicker. Others have moved forward slower. Our particular COBOL-based system is what it is. I don't know how much Maryland has been modernized. I mean, it's difficult to compare the systems. When you don't know what sort of technological fixes they've had over the years. We've had very little. So I would be very wary about comparing us to another state, even though they have a COBOL-based system. It depends on how much money they've put into it up to this point. And as for the $12 million, we've received $6 million and have applied for the second $6 million to build these systems.
Commissioner, I just want to add to that too about be careful of the assumptions. COBOL is simply the language. And so it doesn't tell us that it's the same system. We have a mainframe system that dates back to 1980s that was updated in 2001. That's now an IBM mainframe that uses COBOL as the language. But we also have 4 other components that are tied together to this mainframe, which is really the workhorse. So it's 5 components that make up our system. We can't assume because they have COBOL that there's anything similar with their system.
Okay, I just mentioned Connecticut because I think at one point you told me that you were I mentioned Maryland because at one point you said that Connecticut was in some kind of consortium with Maryland and some other states to use the same unemployment system.
No, it's.
I believe you might have heard us wrong. Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi, Maine, Rhode Island, and Oklahoma.
Okay, so so Mississippi, Maine, Rhode Island, and Oklahoma all use the same system. No,
they don't all use the same system. They will all be using the same reemploy system once they're all modernized together. And the systems are at least 80% similar, which maintains integrity and the ability to keep costs low in terms of maintenance of the individual states. So Mississippi has already done that. Maine has already done that. We're 2/3 of the way through that. It does not mean that Mississippi has a COBOL system. We're talking about a completely new, modernized system. Once we're there, hopefully in May of 2021.
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Thank you,
All right.
Anna.
Thank you.
All right. That concludes our list of reporters. Any further inquiries, please contact Nancy Steffens or myself, and we'll do this again next week via video. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.